Welcome to The Explainer. Today we've got a story for you that's just wild. It's a high-stakes, dramatic, true story about this small company of actors who literally risked everything to bring professional theater to a brand new world.
So what does a backstage murder have to do with the birth of American theater? Well, to figure that out, we've got to jump back in time. We're talking London, 1750. And let me tell you, the stage back then, it wasn't just a place for art. It was a world packed with peril, and honestly, it was getting pretty stale.
To really get why this family of actors would even think about crossing an entire ocean, you have to picture the world they were so desperate to escape. And believe me, it was a world defined by some serious conflict.
And I'm not talking about just, some artistic disagreements over a line reading. Now, this was open warfare. Take the infamous Actor Rebellion of 1733. This event literally shut down London's most famous theater and pitted actors against managers in a full-on showdown.
And for the Hallam family, this danger was incredibly personal and deadly. In fact, Lewis Hallam's own father was murdered, right there in the green room. And the killer? The famous actor Charles Macklin.
And here's the part that's just unbelievable. The cause of this murder? Are you ready for this? It was a furious argument over who owned a wig. A wig! It just goes to show you how insanely high the tensions and egos were running in London's theater scene.
So what happened to the killer, Macklin? He was convicted of manslaughter, and his punishment was supposed to be getting an M branded on his hand, a sentence that, by the way, probably never even happened. He faced almost no real consequences, and that just reinforced this grim reality for actors like the Hallams. London offered them very little justice and even less security.
Okay, so you've got this grim reality. What do you do? Well, Lewis's brother, William, comes up with a solution, a plan so radical it sounded like complete madness at the time. His idea? Just leave. Leave it all behind.
His plan was to create something entirely new, the Hallam Company. This would be the first ever professional English theater company, assembled specifically to tour the American colonies. Think about that. America had never seen anything like it. And this wasn't some small-time operation. Oh no. They were planning to bring a massive repertoire of 25 different shows with them. We're talking 20 full-length plays and 5 farces. Everything from Shakespeare to the latest hits from London, the whole shebang.
But for any of this to actually happen, for this huge gamble to even get off the ground, the decision really came down to one couple, Lewis Hallam and his wife Sarah. And you have to understand, Sarah wasn't just his wife. She was a celebrated, famous actress in her own right.
And this really lays out the impossible choice they were facing, right? On one hand, you have the London trap. Stay there with the fierce competition, the stagnation, playing the same old roles forever, and of course the traumatic memories of murder. Or you take the American gamble, a chance for a new beginning, real creative control, and a legacy for their children. But it also meant a perilous 6 to 8 week sea voyage into the complete unknown.
And the personal cost of that choice, wow, it was immense. The absolute hardest part of the decision was knowing they'd have to leave their youngest, most fragile child, Isabella, behind with family. They had no idea when or even if they would ever see her again. And here's the crucial point. Lewis knew this whole thing, this entire audacious venture, hinged on Sarah. As he told her, "We both know this would only work with you." She wasn't just the star actress, she was the best company manager there was, the glue that could hold it all together. And she agreed.
So the decision is made. They're going. But as soon as they commit, a new, much more immediate threat pops up. And this time, it was the very man they hired to get them there.
They get on board the ship, the charming Sally, and right away the Hallams start getting this terrible feeling about the captain, Captain Lee. They grew deeply suspicious, terrified that he might just rob them blind and toss them overboard in the middle of the Atlantic. Lewis even confronted him, asking, "Are you a mariner or just a pirate?"
So what do you do in that situation? Well, the Hallams didn't just sit back and hope for the best. They devised this incredibly clever and honestly pretty ruthless insurance policy. They confronted the captain, revealing they knew all about his wife, Sally, and their son. They promised a huge bonus for his wife upon safe arrival, but they also implied some pretty severe consequences if the family just disappeared. And to top it off, they brought no cash on board, removing the temptation entirely. It was such a shrewd arrangement. Look at this. No currency on the ship, so there's no temptation for robbery. A big bonus for his wife, so he's incentivized for a safe passage. And that veiled threat to his family, well, that pretty much guaranteed his good behavior. They had him cornered.
So, with that deal struck, and the captain's intentions, let's say, clarified, the charming Sally was finally ready to sail. A small ship carrying a monumental ambition into the pages of history.
And the ship's manifest, it really tells the story. You have just 13 actors, and 3 of them are children, then 15 crew members. That's it. This tiny group of people setting off across a vast ocean, literally carrying the entire future of American theater with them. And their plan, once they got there, was just incredibly ambitious. They intended to tour all the major colonial hubs, starting in Williamsburg, then on to Annapolis, Charleston, Philly, New York, even up to Newport and Providence. They were going to bring the London stage to a whole new world that had never seen it before.
So here's what you really got to take away from all this. Their departure, this voyage, it was so much more than a business trip or a tour. This was a foundational cultural event. It was the very moment professional English theater was planted in American soil. This was the seed from which everything else would grow.
So they had escaped the dangers of London. They'd outsmarted a potentially mutinous captain. They had set a course for history. Their ship had finally sailed. But the biggest question of all was still hanging in the air. Would this audacious, insane gamble actually pay off and change the stage forever?